Welcome. You're joining us for a deep dive into a case that, well, it still echoes in Ogden, Utah. The disappearance of Frances Sessions. May 20th, 1946.
And it's not just some old story. It's an official cold case. Ogden City Police, Utah Bureau of Criminal Identification. Case number 22G14442. That number itself tells you it's still active, still important.
Nearly 80 years. And we're going to try and unpack just why this vanishing act continues to, well, baffle everyone.
It really grabs you, this case, because it's not just one tragedy. It's two inextricably linked. And the fact it's still official, still open, it just highlights all those unanswered questions.
Let's try to get a picture of Frances. She was 26, petite, 5'3", maybe 97 pounds.
Right. Gray eyes, blonde, or maybe strawberry blonde hair, fair skin.
But the detail that really, really sticks with you is what she was wearing that day.
Yeah.
Dark gray slacks, a blue blouse, brown shoes.
But they were blood-covered.
Exactly, blood-covered. And we should mention she was also known as Frances Taylor Shurtleff. But those clothes, that image...
It tells you so much, doesn't it? Right away. This isn't someone just deciding to leave.
Yeah.
Someone leaving home, visibly marked by something so horrific. It strongly suggests she wasn't, thinking clearly, not making rational plans.
It's like the blood isn't just a detail, it's signpost to her state of mind. Profound distress.
Completely.
Which brings us to that central, just heartbreaking question. How does a mother, already going through the absolute worst day of her life, her 6-year-old son, Lee Albert Sessions, dies? And on that same day, May 20th, 1946, she vanishes, without a trace.
The sources keep saying it, probably overcome with grief.
Yeah. And those blood-soaked clothes, they just don't scream planned escape, do they?
Not at all. It feels more like a raw expression of trauma, a mind just reeling.
Makes you wonder what could possibly make someone in that state just walk away.
That's the mystery, isn't it? That sheer weight of loss, plus the visible distress.
Yeah, a planned disappearance feels really, really unlikely.
Points to something impulsive.
Definitely. Emotionally driven, not thought out. Okay, so let's rewind. Back to the start of that awful day.
Right.
It began as a family outing. They went to Frances's father's farm, Lee Shurtleff's place.
Okay.
It was located in the 100 block above Harrison in Ogden, basically the east edge of the city, right up against the mountains.
That location is important. Harrison Boulevard, that's a main road in Ogden, north-south.
Right.
So the farm's on the east bench, where the city starts climbing towards the Wasatch Front, that kind of edge-of-town zone.
Her son Lee was there, just 6 years old. And her nephew, Spencer Roberts, also 6.
So 2 young kids.
Yeah. And this wasn't some deep wilderness trip. It was close to home.
Right near the city.
Then, around 2 p.m., Frances takes the boys for a hike.
Okay.
They're heading straight east from the farm, aiming for Bear Cave.
Bear Cave.
Now, this is important. The sources say the accident happened at Bear Cave on the mountain slope at the head of 2nd Street.
Ah, God.
You need to be super clear. This is a local Ogden spot, not the famous Bear Cave down south in Arch Canyon.
Good distinction. That local knowledge is key. Head of 2nd Street. That tells you it's right where the city grid stops and the mountain begins.
Exactly. And back in 46, that area would have been less developed, probably more like rough paths than proper trails.
Right at the interface of the town and the wilder terrain.
And that terrain, it proved fatal. Loose shale, the sources say. Steep slope.
Oh, shale is treacherous.
They lost their footing. Frances tried to grab them, couldn't, and they fell over cliffs.
Just like that. An innocent hike turns tragic.
The instability of the ground itself was a huge factor.
Definitely. That loose rock, steep angle. It's a recipe for disaster even close to home.
The aftermath,
Yeah.
It's just gut-wrenching to even think about.
Yeah.
Frances finds Lee, her son, severely injured, and she carries him about half a mile back towards her father's farm.
Carrying him. Oh, my God.
But he died. He died while she was carrying him.
On the way back.
Yeah. Her nephew, Spencer, he survived. His grandfather found him later, took him to the hospital.
Just imagine that trek for Frances. The physical effort, but the emotional agony, carrying your dying child.
It's beyond comprehension. A mother's desperate effort against the absolute worst. So she finally gets back to her parents' house, 916 26th Street in Ogden.
Okay.
This is around 4 p.m., just 2 hours after her son died.
2 hours sounds incredibly fast. The shock must have been immense.
And we have that description again from a Mrs. Tolhurst, probably overcome with grief. What must she have been going through?
Utterly shattered. You have to wonder what happens next in someone's mind when they're that broken.
And then maybe half an hour later, around 4:30 p.m., there's a possible sighting.
Okay.
2 employees from Utah Power and Light, they reportedly saw her.
Yeah.
Walking south on Harrison Boulevard.
Harrison.
Yeah.
That's the main road again.
Yeah, also US 30 and 89 back then, and she was heading towards Weber Canyon.
Towards Weber Canyon, okay.
Yeah.
That's significant.
But it's fleeting. It's unconfirmed. Still, it's the only potential glimpse of her after she left her parents' place.
That sighting is so critical, but frustratingly uncertain. Harrison Boulevard, heading south. That would lead toward Weber Canyon, which is a big canyon system east-southeast of Ogden.
Right.
So if it was her, it gives a direction, but
yeah,
it's a big if.
Okay, let's just quickly recap these key Ogden spots for you listening.
Good idea.
First, the Shurtleff Farm, 100 block above Harrison. East Bench, east of Harrison Boulevard, going up towards the mountains. That's where the day started and where she returned with Lee.
Got it. Proximity to the mountains is clear.
Then the accident site. Mountain slope at the head of 2nd Street near Bear Cave, where the city meets the steep, shale-covered Wasatch Front. More rugged back then than today, probably.
Right at that edge. Urban meets wild.
Third, the family home. 916 26th Street, her parents' place. Last place family saw her. She vanished from there around 4 p.m.
And that detail from the Doe Network.
Yeah.
Briefly washing up in the bathroom.
Yeah, but leaving in the same blood-covered clothes, it's such a poignant, small detail. Tells you so much about her state.
A flicker of normalcy, maybe? But overwhelmed by everything else?
And finally, that potential path. Harrison Boulevard, south, towards Weber Canyon. Major road. And Weber Canyon means heading into vast, rugged wilderness. Again, unconfirmed sighting, but it's the only clue pointing away from the house. Why head there in that condition?
If she did go towards Weber Canyon. Wow, that's a huge, challenging landscape. Especially for someone distraught. And for anyone searching.
So Frances leaves 916 26th Street around 4 p.m. Nobody in the family actually sees her walk out the door.
Understandable, maybe.
Oh.
The chaos, the grief in that house must have been immense. Everyone focused on Lee's death.
And let's keep saying it. She's still wearing those clothes. Covered in blood. A constant, terrible reminder.
Yeah.
Her departure feels aimless, like just wandering, driven by shock and grief.
Less a decision, more a reaction.
The alarm gets raised pretty quickly, it seems. A missing person report is filed by this Mrs. Tolhurst.
We don't know her exact relation.
Sources don't specify. But the report details Frances leaving her father's home after Lee died, not seen since. Gives her description, mentions the clothes.
So someone realized, fast, this wasn't just her needing space. This was dangerous.
Yeah, the speed suggests real concern. Ogden police start investigating. And interestingly, they follow up numerous leads across the United States.
Across the U.S. Wow, that's a wide net early on.
Makes you wonder why, doesn't it? Maybe they thought someone that distressed might try to get far away, seek help elsewhere, or maybe just wander.
Or perhaps local searches didn't turn up anything immediately, so they broadened the scope. Thinking maybe she got on a train. Ogden was a rail hub.
Could be. But while there were these possible sightings across the country, nothing was ever confirmed. Zero confirmation.
So lots of leads, but all dead ends.
Yeah. Which brings us back to that one potential local sighting. The power company guys. Harrison Boulevard, towards Weber Canyon, 4:30 p.m.
Still unconfirmed.
Still unconfirmed. And the sources, they don't really detail any major specific search efforts within Weber Canyon itself back in 46.
That's a gap, isn't it? If that sighting was the best lead.
It is. You have this very local, grief-driven tragedy, potentially spawning a nationwide search. But the local lead itself feels underdeveloped, or at least undocumented in what we have.
And that lack of confirmed sightings anywhere, really.
Yeah.
It's tough. Identifying someone from a fleeting glimpse based just on a description and, well, the tragic state of her clothes.
Very difficult.
Yeah. Maybe focusing nationally stretched resources if the Harrison sighting was right.
It's possible. And so, here we are today.
Still unsolved.
Officially unsolved, classified endangered missing. Ogden PD still lists her.
Which is important. It's not forgotten.
Absolutely. And if you, listening right now, think you might know anything, even something small, please call. The Cold Case Tip Hotline is 833-DPS-SAFE. That's 833-377-7233.
Or the Ogden City Police Investigations Bureau, 801-629-8228.
There's also the Doe Network contact, Rick Childress, at 801-395-8221. And her NAMIUS case number is 89538. Any piece of information could matter, even now.
It really could. Cold cases aren't closed files. Time passes, but the need for answers doesn't. New information can change everything.
To really get this, you have to think about Ogden in 1946.
Oh, the context.
Big railroad town, major transportation hub connecting east and west.
Lots of people coming and going.
The economy was shifting, too. Less purely agricultural, more government, industry, commerce. The area near 2nd Street where the accident happened, it had history. Pioneers, farming, later Italian communities, the defense depot. It was a changing place.
That transport hub aspect is key, right? It fuels those theories about her possibly leaving the area easily. More transient people around, maybe harder to track someone.
Definitely. And the East Bench, where the farm was, near Bear Cave.
Yeah.
It's right on the edge of the Wasatch Mountains.
Easy access to hiking, wilderness.
Even if the trails weren't like today's, head of 2nd Street was literally where the city stopped and the mountains started. Right.
It's striking how all these key spots, farm, accident site, parents' home, potential sighting path, are clustered on or near this eastern edge.
Close to that wilder terrain. Weber Canyon may be a bit further, but part of that accessible periphery.
Yeah. And Harrison Boulevard, a major road, 26th Street where the parents lived, a residential street in the grid. Apparently there are county assessor photos from the era, though we can't search them easily. Gives you a feel for the place, though.
Next picture her potential movements. Harrison as a main route, 26th Street as that last known point within the family circle.
And Weber Canyon. Let's not underestimate it. It's a major canyon, a natural corridor deep into the mountains.
Huge.
If she went that way, she's entering a vast, rugged, unforgiving wilderness. Searching that in 1946, incredibly difficult.
Immense challenge. Scale, terrain, limited tech back then.
Yeah.
A place someone could easily vanish.
Which leaves us swimming in unanswered questions.
So many.
The biggest one, obviously. What happened to Frances?
Did she just succumb to the elements out there? In the canyon, the foothills, disoriented by grief?
Or was it suicide? Possible, given the trauma.
Or an accident, a fall, maybe, because she was so distraught.
Or did she somehow manage to get away? Start a new life? Seems unlikely given her state, but those nationwide leads, they had to come from somewhere.
Keeps all possibilities on the table, doesn't it? Because there's just no proof either way.
Exactly. The lack of evidence is what lets all these theories persist. Her emotional state makes almost anything seem plausible.
And what about that last sighting? The power company guys. How reliable was it?
That's a huge question mark.
Unconfirmed. Could they have been mistaken? No other corroboration.
It's frustrating.
It really is. It's the last potential thread, but it's so thin. Misidentification is definitely possible.
And the searches themselves, we know they followed leads, but the details on ground searches, especially in the canyon or foothills right after she vanished, they seem sparse in the records we have. Yeah. And think about search capabilities in 46. No helicopters with thermal imaging, no widespread radio communication in the mountains, no GPS.
Very basic, really. Searching that kind of terrain would have been incredibly hard. Boots on the ground, line searches maybe, but covering vast areas.
Tough. Extremely daunting.
And maybe that's the most haunting thing here, the complete, total lack of evidence. No body, no clothes found later, no belongings, no confirmed sightings after maybe 4:30 p.m. that day, nothing.
That absolute silence, that void for nearly 80 years, that's what makes it so perplexing. So sad.
Yeah. This deep dive into Frances Sessions, her disappearance right after losing her son, Lee, is just such a profound human tragedy.
It truly is a stark reminder of how grief can just derail a life in the most awful ways. The impact of that one day still felt.
And those places in Ogden, the farm, the mountainside, the house on 26, Harrison Boulevard, Weber Canyon, they're like silent witnesses, aren't they?
Yeah. Holding the secrets of that day, the landscape itself, the easy access to dangerous terrain, it played such a key role.
Both in the initial accident and perhaps in her disappearance.
Absolutely. That interface between the city and the wild is central to the story.
And remarkably, after all this time, almost 80 years, the case is still open. Frances Sessions is still missing.
There's always that hope, right?
Yeah.
That some new information, some connection might finally surface.
We have to hope. It speaks volumes that it remains active, shows the commitment to finding answers, the lasting impact of not knowing. So we remember Frances Sessions, a young woman, a mother whose life was just shattered by grief. Her story. It's a powerful reminder of what unresolved loss feels like, the questions that linger.
Yeah.
And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? When you consider her state, that overwhelming grief, the visible trauma and the environment around her, that accessible, rugged wilderness.
Yeah.
What seems most plausible to you, even without proof? What path might she have taken into the unknown?